it. It's kind of hard sometimes to figure out why anybody would want to be, but I'm so proud of them for what they do. And thank you for the opportunity to come before the citizens and have a voice. And I am running because I feel like I need to have a voice. I did a lot of complaining, and I decided it's better to have a voice than to complain. That's why I'm running.
Elizabeth Strader.
Hi, can everybody hear me? Okay, super. Thanks everybody for coming. What a fantastic group of people, and thank you to the MIAC folks for organizing this and everyone for attending this important forum. I grew up here, so I grew up here in Idaho, and I went to Westata County schools, and I graduated from College of Idaho, and Meridian is where my heart is. When I graduated from college, I couldn't find a job here, and I moved, it was a little crazy, I moved to New York. That's where I found a job, and I worked there for 13 years in commercial real estate and finance, but I was really homesick. I missed being here. I wanted to raise my young kids here in a place where they would be near their family, where they would be safe, where my kids could ride their bikes outside and walk to school. And the reason that I'm running for seat 1 on City Council is that I do feel our citizens need a stronger voice in government with the amount of growth that we have going on. I think that the folks here have done a fantastic job trying to cope with the growth, but I think we could grow more consistently and try to manage it better, and that's what I want to focus on. So I want to bring that professionalism and that experience that I have from working in commercial real estate, and I really want to use this as a project to give back to my community and help us grow better. Thank you.
Rudolf Patrick.
Once we get through the spin up on how to work the equipment, it's a pleasure to be here, and thank you very much for coming tonight, and thank you to MIAC for putting this on. I really am honored by an opportunity to come before you and represent, perhaps, the city in Council Seat 1. My wife and I, Linnell, came to this community in 2004. I had spent about a half a career as a pastor and went back to get my law degree and became a practicing attorney, working for my denomination's national office and then working as a private practice attorney here in town since about 2005 or 6. We came here to worship in 2004. We came up to church and actually built a house and came to the community in 2009. And we have found this to be a wonderful place. We finished raising our children here. We love it here. We believe that this community has a number of challenges ahead of it. And as we replace so much of our leadership in this election with these council seats running, everyone being new, all of us will be new councilmen, and a new mayor replacing a longtime loved mayor in this community, I look forward to stepping up and representing. I like that quote that says, all that's necessary for evil to triumph is for good men to do nothing. And in my particular flavor of the faith community, I think we tend to sit back and not be involved in political outreach, political things, and it's my desire to change that. It's my desire to personally represent changing that, and that's why I love Meridian. There's a lot of good things that we have going. There are things that could be improved, and I look forward to that, and that's why I'm here representing myself to you tonight for Meridian Seat 1.
Our first question for Seat 1, what is a personal goal you have for Meridian? First answer, Elizabeth.
Sure, I go by Liz.
Liz?
So you know, I would prefer that, thank you. So a personal goal of mine, a couple of things. First and foremost, I have a huge passion for downtown Meridian. When I look at downtown Meridian, I see a huge amount of potential. And I can tell that we have done a lot to try to help set the stage for a very wonderful environment where we have, kind of a mixed use, work, play, live kind of environment. But we need to have an ecosystem there that works, where people actually live there and they can shop, and we have a pedestrian sense of place. So I would love to help, try to complete the work of getting part of downtown Meridian out of a floodplain. I would love to also get, as a personal project, I would love to get a business incubator located again in Meridian. because I do feel like we need to focus on creating more family wage jobs here. And traditionally, our homegrown companies have actually really provided those for us. So I want to bring that focus of family wage jobs and really focusing on downtown Meridian. And then finally, preserving our open space, which is such a huge part of our heritage. I want to make sure that we're using smart development patterns so that we're not giving up, the thing that makes us Meridian. Thanks.
Rudolf.
Well, I must also say Rudy.
Rudy?
But I too have a passion for downtown. My office has been the last 4 years over on Pine Street, about a block off of Main Street, and before that, down a little closer to Albertsons on Main Street. It has been wonderful to locate an office in a residential area, and we're surrounded by a residential area. It's been a joy to have people and clients who come from right around where you are. I'm passionate about the downtown. I spend a lot of my time here, eating and living, and enjoy it very much, and I would like to see it continue to grow. A concern that I have, as we have experienced such phenomenal growth, and there appears to be no end in sight, I would hate to see us outgrow our police and fire protection. I'd like to see us keep those well. I'd like us to keep growing in a very healthy way that we can sustain into the future so that we continue to be a great community, both in downtown and in the way that we're protected.
Donna? Is it Donna?
It is.
Okay. Question is yours.
Well, my personal goal is to be a part of the city council where we make decisions that make sense. Everybody is really concerned about growth. I'm concerned about growth, and I have some ideas that I'd like to present to the council and work through the issues with them. I have a real passion for our law enforcement, our first responders, our fire department. I really want to see us working closer with them for their needs. I also have, I'm on the Historic Preservation Commission, so I have a real heart for the history of Meridian and the downtown area. I'd really like to see that be upgraded, if you will, with more eateries, some more modern, with keeping our history and our future combined in that. Also like to see some middle-sized companies come in that provide jobs for the families that live here, and something that doesn't change really the face of the city, but actually integrates into what we need. We do need more jobs here. There is growth, and so without jobs, that's a problem. I have a lot of other ideas that I'm assuming we will tackle as we go, because I see I'm running out of time.
Our next question. What plans do you have to make sure growth is the right growth for Meridian? The first answer, Rudy.
Well, thank you. I believe that I don't know what we would say is the right growth for Meridian, but I believe keeping growth consistent with what we've seen and growing in such a way that will keep our community as a great place to live and a great place to raise our children would be the right growth, I suppose. I would want to see that we have sufficient schools, sufficient police and fire protection, and sufficient transportation to get us around while having a sustainable budget. I haven't been through a budget process, as we heard about some in the last session, but having been through budget processes in other organizations, I think we need to be careful. This city has gone on debt-free for quite some time and needs to continue so that we can, in the future, if we address some bumps in our economy and the growth stops, we need to be able to continue to move forward with that. Thank you.
Donna?
Well, I feel that growth can be good and bad. Just go for the Trader Joe's. I know probably a lot of people are happy about that. That comes with the good part of growth. We get to have a lot of retail, commerce, a lot more people. Oh, sorry. Sorry about that. Did you hear any of it? Okay, so I think that with good growth, we get a lot of good things and positive things, but we have to maintain a pace that makes sense for everybody, because I think that We're growing very fast, and we need to make some decisions that will help alleviate and manage some of the downside of growth. And that, of course, is traffic, housing cost, those sort of things. So I feel like there's a lot of things that we can do, and I'm anxious to put some of those ideas forward with the city in a council seat.
Liz?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's really important for us to have a very honest conversation about growth. And the reason is that, as a real estate person, I've done a lot of research on the whole Treasure Valley, and just looking at it, our vacancy rate is below or around 4%. And what that means is that although we're building a record number of units, we're absorbing them all because our population is growing. And so we need to decide how we want to grow. If we embrace a sprawling development pattern and continue to build single-family houses everywhere and denser housing all over Meridian, it's going to exacerbate some of the issues that we're already having with traffic and schools. So what I really think we need to embrace is, number one, following our comprehensive plan. So completing that process, I'd like to see the inclusion of some low-density classification in that. And then I'd also like us to increase our standards for development. We have a ton of development going on. If we are competitive with our surrounding cities, but we increase our residential requirement for open space, we're actually going to get higher quality development, and we're going to save some of our farmland. At the same time, we need housing, and we need housing in order for us to solve our affordability issues that everybody is having. And I would propose that this dense housing and this further development really be focused in an area that we can manage it. Ideally, there's a huge opportunity in downtown Meridian to do that. So that's, I have a pretty strong vision about that. And the biggest thing I want to see is us to keep Meridian the special place that it is, realize its potential, and really have that balance with a mix of different types of housing for everybody. Thanks.
Our next question, 1 minute for the answer. What does your experience give you that qualifies you to be a city council representative? First answer, Donna.
So I spent 38 years in the commercial insurance business, where I dealt with a lot of risk analysis and risk management on very high-profile accounts, such as municipalities and construction and contractors. And I've seen the downside of what can happen, and I've seen the upside of responsible management in that area. I feel like I have a great deal of experience. I've been on many boards, insurance women, lots of HOAs, that sort of thing. So I have the ability to work hand in hand with other people and respect opinions and be able to come to resolutions. And I also have a big heart for volunteering, so I spend a lot of time in volunteering and in service in a lot of different areas. So I feel that all of these help with that.
Liz?
So in my career, my experience has been working on billions of dollars of transactions in all commercial real estate property types across the United States. I have a lot of background in finance and a very specific type of finance. And I feel like that real estate experience and that background in finance is really going to dovetail well with the two main things that City Council is supposed to do, which is focus on land use, which is really commercial real estate, and our budget. So I feel like I am qualified to tackle those things. Most importantly, I'm a local mom, and I bring that perspective of a parent here, of a family member here that wants to see us thrive, and I'm highly, highly engaged. I'm going to show up to every city council meeting. I'm going to be really here to represent the citizens of Meridian. Thanks.
Rudy?
I have about 20 years' experience working with boards, organizations, for-profit, nonprofit, working with volunteer staff and paid staff. I've been an attorney for another almost 20 years and helped people solve life's problems, work through very difficult situations. And I see those things coming together to be very good assets in working with and bringing a team together for the benefit of Meridian and on City Council.
In what might be our last question for this seat, Do you think it's important to have a youth voice in government? If so, in what ways will you include them? We're going to do 1 minute for the answers here, and we'll start with Liz.
Thank you. I would like to continue having, the youth involved in our commissions and city government. I think that's a wonderful thing that we're already doing. I would love to see us work with folks that are also coming out of high school that are looking for some, workforce development training to try to help them, stay in Meridian and thrive here. That's one of my biggest concerns. I want to make sure that when my kids grow up, that they find a great job here. I unfortunately did not, and it took me a while to get back here, and I'm sure glad I am. But I think that's something important that we can do is, create a business incubator, try to create more lab space, partner with the colleges here, and really focus on that, kind of homegrown workforce and homegrown businesses so that our youth can thrive.
Rudy?
Well, thanks again to MIAC for hosting this. I probably thought it was more important for youth involvement when I actually was a youth, and I want to say in what's going on, right? But I really appreciate that you're here. I think it's a great entree into politics, into business, into working with people. I think it's a wonderful area for you to become involved in your community. How do we increase that? I think we've heard from the mayoral candidates that there's an intent to maintain this and keep it going and let it flourish. And I would certainly want that to be a part. I think that the enthusiasm, the wonderment of youth is such a fantastic thing as we apply it to problems of today, and I like to see involvement. I like the passion that you bring to what we need to do. And so, of course, we would want to continue it, to include it, and really be open to anything that we could as suggestions come and other areas of involvement open up.
Donna?
Do I think it's important for the youth to be involved? Absolutely. These young people that are here tonight, in just a couple of years, will be eligible for a city council seat. So yes, I think it's very important that they're involved and that that we come alongside them and help them and support them in whatever way we can, so that they continue to be involved and continue to grow and learn what city government is all about. And the ways that I would try to incorporate that is to I want to meet them all, I want to work with them all, I want to find out what they're all about, and then I want to help support them.
It's about time until I forgot to press the button. Round of applause for our Seat 1 City Council candidates.
Thank you.
All right, don't go anywhere. Don't leave. We have our Seat 3 City Council candidates. We're going to change out the nameplates, and we'll just transfer from one forum to the next. So as our next candidates take their seat, I get to fill time, which I'm good at. We've got a couple of events coming. Just again, a reminder from Mayor Tammy that Meridian Town Hall meeting, this would be Wednesday, the 23rd, from 6:30 to 8. That's Touchmark at Meadow Lake Village. Everybody is welcome to attend. And, of course, Trunk or Treat goes from 6 to 9 on Thursday downtown. It's free, but go ahead and bring a food bank donation. And the prescription drug take-back event Saturday, that's at the Walmart parking lot at 10 Mile. That's going on from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. If you have any prescription drugs around the home that you don't need anymore, go ahead, turn them in there. I'm just going to go right down the road. All right. That brings us to our City Council Seat 3 candidates. Please welcome Brad Hoaglun and Kristen Pudlow. And we'll give them both 2 minutes to introduce themselves, starting with Brad.
Thank you, Mr. Shellman. Appreciate it. First thing I want to do is acknowledge Mayor Tammy back there and say, I'm in your seat. This is kind of cool. I'm running for city council because I want to give back to my community. And you hear that a lot from people, but this is the community I grew up in. I moved here in 1970. And so that makes me someone who's lived here a long time, except for a few years back east and a few years away from college. Raised my family here, and I had the privilege of serving on the city council back starting in '08 when Mayor Tammy appointed me to a vacancy on the city council. And I ran in '09, won an election and served a full term there. And then I only left council because I had a change in employment and I could not make that time work. It's more than showing up on Tuesday nights to cast votes and then show up the next week and cast votes. It's about being involved and engaged in your community. And so I've recently changed to an organization that allows some flexibility in January. And when I saw we had 3 council seats going to be vacant and the mayor's seats vacant, I thought, you know, I want to go back and serve my community. I enjoy it. And I have even more reasons now. My parents still live in Meridian, but since that time, I've added some grandchildren to this community. And when you have 2 5-year-old twin granddaughters and a 2-year-old grandson, you really want to make this community the best place it can be for their future.
Kristin?
Hello, my name is Kristen Pudlow, and I just want to first say that it is an honor to be able to run for office. And next to this gentleman, I had the opportunity to meet him. I've done some research, and he's an outstanding person. So I just want to say what an honor it is to sit next to somebody who is such a good person and such a good candidate. So I want to run for city council because I have a burden in my heart to do something, I guess, for my community. I spent 16 years, I'm still in the National Guard, but I spent the last 13 years active duty for the Idaho Army National Guard. And I had the opportunity to visit nations that did not have governance. I got to see what people that don't have water, what that's like. And when I came back home, I like to say I grew up in Iraq. Now I'm only 5 feet tall, so I didn't really grow up, but I grew older in Iraq, and seeing what happens in nations when governments fall apart or they're not there to support citizens. And so I got to come back, and it's been the highest honor. Idaho Army National Guard soldiers are some of the best people I've ever met, and what an honor to work and be mentored alongside them. And so recently I graduated with my bachelor's degree in sociology, and I felt a need to kind of work more directly with community based on that experience and my heart. So.
Our first question for seat 3. What is the difference in the role of the mayor versus city council? And Kristin, first answer is yours.
The difference in the role between mayor and city council. A mayor is part of the executive branch of city government, and city council is part of the legislative branch. So the executive branch manages day-to-day operations of the city. They hold city employees accountable. They are the liaison for every citizen to listen to concerns, and they're over the city council meetings. They preside over the agenda. They decide what is and is not on the agenda. The city council members are the legislative branch. They work on approving or disapproving city council changes for city code, which I've read all of that. It's very an interesting read. I do have favorite parts of the city code now. But yeah, that's what the city council does, as well as the budget is such a huge part. But the mayor has a big part in the budget as well, as far as working with the departments to propose that budget. But it's legislative versus executive branch.
Brad?
Well, I don't want to repeat what Kristin said because she nailed it. It is a separation of powers here with legislative and executive branch. And really the big thing is the primary role for the council is that budget. That appropriation process, the power of the purse strings, as you may have heard it expressed, is very important, because where you spend your money, that is where your priorities are in a community. So having that ability to set the budget, working with the mayor, it is a collaborative process. They set the vision. They're kind of the ones out there talking to the community. You see them a lot. Oftentimes the council members are more behind the scenes, and we're the ones looking at those details and doing some things that have to be done and moving the city forward. So it is a different role, but yet we're working for the same goal, and that is to better our community. And so it's just a matter of making sure those visions come together in a way that's appropriate and not separately. And I think Mayor Tammy, for the past 16 years, it's not something that people notice, but she has had to work with different council members throughout the time to bring the alignment of these visions together. And that's hard to do, because you'll have 6 council members who are independent and they have their own ideas and have their own goals of how to achieve certain things. And you're going to hear that tonight. People have different visions on how to make our community better. But I think that's where we have to work together and make sure we're unified and not split apart like some communities are, and you have contention and different things. And we've been very fortunate in Meridian where that unity has been there.
What will you bring to the table as a city council member? Brett.
Well, I think the obvious thing is my experience, having served nearly 6 years as a city council member. If you go back far enough in my experience, back into the late 80s, I served as an assistant to mayor and city council in Boise when Dirk Kempthorne was elected mayor of Boise. And I had that opportunity to work at a very critical time when Boise was developing. There was a vision that was set by the previous administration, that was to tear down all the buildings in downtown Boise. In fact, I think the New York Times referred to it as bombed out Beirut, and the old timers remember that. Uh-oh, what does that mean, Ann? Anyway, and seeing that collaborative process and understanding what it takes to bring different groups who have different agendas to the table and forge that common vision and that common bond. And I think that's very important, what we need to do. It is a collaborative process. We have to work with ACHD. We have to work with ITD. We have to work with the different communities that border us. We are in the middle. That's a good thing. Bad thing is, as you heard, we're in the middle. And traffic to and through. But that is something that I think I can bring with that experience and where I've done it before, to bring people to the table, working with the mayor, the other council members, and finding a common vision where we can move not just our community, but this whole valley forward.
Kristin.
Well, I bring passion and dedication. I understand how to work hard. I have an addiction to research. I've tried to get over it, but I can't. And I do a lot of research on government. I've spent a lot of years with the federal government, understanding how that works, and wanting to look for ways to improve. And so with my bachelor's in sociology, it's not the end of my education, but it is a beneficial paradigm to be able to look through and look at government for. One example is I think that Maslow's hierarchy of needs should be a way that we measure whether government resources are being spent in a healthy way or not. And I know this, you can't see it here, but it's the bottom of the pyramid is physiological needs, food, water, and then safety is next. And so I think taking this research approach, I would do a lot of research. I know how to work really well with people, but I would like to bring some of those tools that are, it doesn't matter what your faith is or what your background is, it's something that can be used as a tool. So.
Our next question. I want to make sure there we go. What changes do you want to make? Kristin.
Okay. While I was researching, is this on?
No.
Happens to everybody.
Thank you.
Yep.
While I was researching the city of Meridian, I did have a difficult time finding some of the budget items. I did find a 5-page budget item, but I think it would be wonderful if they would publish some of the credit card statements or the budget statements monthly for citizens to be able to take a look at that. And that's probably something you'd have to work with the executive branch on, but I think it's a simple way. It doesn't cost the city a lot of money, and it increases accountability for the employees. Every time you swipe that credit card or you go to make a purchase, you think, well, do I really want to get a phone call from a citizen about this, or is this something we really need? And so I think just instilling accountability into government organizations is critical. Not that Meridian isn't well run. I just want to say Meridian is a very well run city. And no one getting on any city council here is getting a bad rap or a bad deal. It's been very well run, and so I don't want to criticize. I just want to say what I have to offer.
Yeah, what changes do you want to make? You know, there are some things I see, it depends on your perspective of where you are in life and what's important to you. And as I mentioned, my grandkids, and parks are important to them. They love to swing. But also, when I think about how do they get to the various parks and how do you get from point A to point B, it's not necessarily the traffic thing, but it's connectivity. Because ACHD puts bike lanes on our roads, that's great. For the hardcore bikers, they can handle that. For families, for kids, for people with other modes of transportation, whether it's skateboard, scooters, however you would want to do it, walking, jogging, we need the pathways connected and to take us to different parts of the city. I think that's very, very important. So it's not necessarily a change, because I know a Parks Department is working on that, but making that a priority to connect our various parks and to other areas of our community, whether it's downtown or to the village, and to spaces that people want to go to and be able to do it without using a vehicle. I think that's important. The other thing on changes is the fact that for our public safety, police, fire, we have to make sure that we are keeping up with the growth. And I think mayoral candidates mentioned it, that we have to keep up on the number of police officers that we have, because it's more than just responding to a call, it's being proactive in our policing. But it's hard to do that when other entities pay more in salary than they do in Meridian. And that's going to be that's a difficult discussion, because budget dollars, there's lots of competition for that within our city, and there's a lot of needs. So I think that's not necessarily a change, because that's going to take 6 people, but I think that's a priority to look at, to make changes in ways that we can make sure we're funding for our public safety people.
What topic are you most passionate about? Brad.
Wow, that's a hard question. I'm probably like Kristin. When you do lots of reading and different things, you kind of get excited about a lot of different things. And you know, to commit to serving the city is you have to have a passion for your community, and to come up here, because I was talking to someone earlier, you don't do it for the money. You certainly don't do it for the fame, because usually you're making half the people in the room mad after a decision that you make. But it's about making this place better than you left it. And looking out ahead, the decisions sometimes are here and now. It's about this development right here, but what are the impacts 5, 10, 15 years down the road? When we had an opportunity to purchase a parcel of land in 2009, times were tough. We had to scrape the money together to find it, but it was pennies on the dollars. If you remember 2008 and the economic state of our community and our livelihoods, it was difficult times. But it was so important, because I was thinking 20 years from now, people will be so grateful that we bought that parcel and we can develop a park. And we did it at such a low cost for taxpayer dollars. And here it is 10 years later, phase 1 of Discovery Park opened this year. So it's trying to look out ahead to see what are those needs, what can we prepare for the future. And that's what I'm passionate about, making sure that they won't remember our names. Well, maybe the mayor they do, because they get their picture everywhere. But for the council members, probably not. But that doesn't matter, because it's better off. Our community is better off because of the work we did way back when.
Kristin, what topic are you most passionate about?
Well, I think this is probably a standard answer, but people. I really do love people. I want to serve people. I want to do as much as I can to help people, and not everybody needs help, but I see processes and systems, and that's improving processes and systems, taking a systematic look at those is the best way to do an evaluation and help the most people. So the other thing is, if practically, I would love to be on participating in the Transportation Board. Compass, VRT, I absolutely love Compass, the way that they approach things through studies, and they don't do anything with just thinking about it or with very little thought. They do everything very methodically. I would love to be on a transportation board or a commission. I'm very excited about light rail transport, working with Union Pacific. I know it's not the city council's job, but I would love to be part of that momentum, working with Union Pacific and state officials to get transportation that's practical. I know I heard a Compass briefing. In 2040, there's supposed to be 1 million people. I hope I'm not wrong on that number, but from my memory, I remember it was something drastic like that. And I think that for my kids to live here, I would like to see that I did what I could to try to make this city an effective city. And it's absolutely needed, a massive transit. You can't just fix the roads. So.
Two-part question here. What do you see as our city's most serious challenge, and what is your solution? Kristin.
Well, I mean, keeping pace with growth, I'm very thankful that economically the city has managed to almost keep pace with the population growth, and I think we'd be much worse off, but growth, it's tax burden on people, on property owners. That's a state legislative issue that you'd have to address, but I think it's important to work with them. People on a fixed income are being hit the hardest with our property tax values, so I'm watching the legislator this year. There's somebody proposing a tax bill to increase the homeowner's exemption past $100,000, and I think that needs to happen. The other thing is growth. So again, transportation, somehow working on mass transit and using citizens' dollars and resources towards that, I think is very important. Protecting safety. As growth comes, we're going to have to fund more police officers. I think we need to put that as a priority in the budget. And again, of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you don't spend money on a picture to hang on the wall unless you have a lock on your front door. And so prioritizing spending is important.
Brad, what's our city's most serious challenge? What is your solution?
Well, there are a couple of them. Number one, we have to keep the economic engine primed. Jobs are paramount, because there was a time in our community when my kids were growing up and I'm thinking, they're going to have to go out of state. They're going to have to go elsewhere to have a career and a job, because things weren't moving that much quickly in areas that Idaho needed to be moving. And fortunately, we've overcome that, and things are taking place that they can have careers here, they can work here, and so keeping that engine going, because business is what makes jobs. It's not government, it's people who take that risk and entrepreneurs who make that happen. That is our most serious challenge? No, it's a serious challenge. Property tax is a serious challenge. I've got the spectrum of, my parents live in Meridian, they're retired, they're on fixed income, property taxes keep going up. We're on fixed income, what are you going to do to fix that? Well, as Kristin pointed out, it's a legislative issue, and where the property tax exemption was capped at $100,000 a few years ago. And then I've got kids who want to buy a house. And how do they do that in a rising market? And that's a serious challenge, and of course property taxes figure in that. And I think tied into that, there's a legislative property tax task force that, in fact, they met today. I think you've read about that. And there's concerns about using property tax as a way to restrict local government from spending money. And how do we meet the needs of growth if they're going to come in and do that? So the serious problem is, how do you keep property taxes lower, but how do you meet the needs of growth at the same time? And maybe we've got to find a solution to that, working with our legislators, and hopefully it's not dictated from the top down. That's probably the most serious challenge.
Ladies and gentlemen, a round of applause for your candidates for City Council Seat 3.
No closing statement, huh?
20 minutes does go by fast. Thank you, Brad, Kristin, appreciate it. While our next candidates for Seat 5 take their seat, I do have to point out that every time you see a candidate, whether they're running for mayor or city council, stop, think, and comment on a question being difficult or thrown at them as a curveball, please thank the Mayor's Youth Advisory Council for that, because they've done a great job putting this together. No, but you know what? If you want them to be asked, then you can actually give them to her to type up. Okay. Because right now she's retyping the ones you just did. Okay. So. Before we get started, are we going by Josh and Jessica? All right. Very good. Sorry? We'll stick with candidate today. All right, our city council candidates for seat 5, Jessica Perreault and Josh Valk. We start off with our opening introductions, 2 minutes. Josh Valk.
Well, I'd like to thank you for putting this on tonight as well. This is my first foray into politics, and I'm pretty excited to get into it. something I've wanted to do for a long time. I've just been waiting for the time to be right. And I'm fairly new to Meridian. I've only been here 3 years, but I see the way we're growing here, and I moved here from another city that was growing, and I've seen things that were done wrong there, and I've seen things that were done right there. And I want to be in a position where I can help a city grow and see those things that were done right. I'm an educator, so that's one of my big strengths is I've educated people for years. I love talking to people, love educating, and I'm also a small business owner. So I know what it takes to start a business. I know what it takes to run a business. I know what it takes to educate people, and I believe those are things that you need to be able to successfully help run a city.
Jessica?
Yes, thank you so much for having us here. I feel humbled with all these very qualified candidates and proud to be here, and looking forward to working with our public and representing our public as a councilwoman. So I moved to Meridian about 10 years ago from Boise. We moved out here because we felt like it was a more affordable way of life to raise our family, and that's one of the reasons why I'm running, but among many, because I have concerns that it's not becoming as affordable for some of our families. But you know, every day I'm driving around and seeing people helping one another. I'm just so impressed with the quality of character of the people in this city. And although I moved here for economic reasons, that's what has kept me here, is because I'm just amazed at the heart that people have for their community. We talked a little bit earlier about the faith-based groups and churches in our community, and so that's the reason that I am still here and why I love this city so much. So I am the chairperson. I'm currently the chairperson of the Meridian Planning and Zoning Commission. I've had the opportunity to serve on the Planning and Zoning Commission for 3 years now. And so I was asked by Genesis Milam, who is a current councilwoman, last year if I would run for her seat for city council. And I told her no about 5 times, but she's very, very persistent. And then was kindly asked by Mayor Tammy to run for city council as well. And so I felt like that door was opening for me. And you know, you can't turn down Mayor Tammy ever. So through lots of thought and you know, conversations with my family, I decided that it was time to continue my service in a more specific way by running for city council.
It's a common theme. Nobody turns down Mayor Tammy. You're welcome. All right, our first question. We'll stick with Jessica here. What is your understanding of local government and what qualifies you to serve on city council?
That's a great question. So I believe that that local government representatives, their role and purpose is to represent the needs of the citizens. But we are in a situation where the needs of the citizens are varied so much. And you'll talk to one group that says that growth is fantastic and they're so happy to be here, and maybe it is more moderate and calm than where they came from. And then you'll talk to another group who say that they've lived here for a very long time and they are disheartened by the growth that they're seeing, and they really would like to keep Meridian a place that is more rural. And so a big part of what local government does and city council does is trying to balance those needs and those concerns of its citizens, and it is not a small job. And so, you know, some of the other candidates have talked about the technicalities of what city council members do, from budgets to land planning. The land planning piece, of course, is my favorite, being a real estate broker, owning a real estate company, and also being on planning and zoning. But I really feel like that it's become incumbent upon our local government to be listening to its residents, because I'm over and over again hearing people say they don't believe that that our local government is listening. And so that is what this one of the biggest reasons I chose to run, is I'm hearing that as a planning and zoning commissioner. I'm hearing that as a realtor and a small business owner and owner of a real estate company here. And so my goal is to really keep my ears open And I'll just share very quickly, I created my first 100 days in government. I created that for myself. And my goal is to meet with every elected official and every surrounding city, as well as members of BVEP and MDC, ACHD, so that I can really truly get an understanding of the challenges and the opportunities that we have valley-wide.
Josh?
Thanks. So I am very much a constitutionalist, so I believe that the best government in our country starts at the local level. I think that in local politics, you have much more of a chance to impact the community, much more of a chance to help the people that you're supposed to be helping. I think that we should really have a chance to examine which way the city is going and make strategic decisions together, which you can do when you're working together as a community. As far as what qualifies me to serve on city council, I am actually very happy that I am running as an outsider. I have not been in politics in any way before in my life, and I like coming in at this time because I can bring an outsider's perspective, somebody who's seen it as a business owner and not just from the political side. I have started a business and ran it and sold a business. I've been successful there. I'm about to start my 7th college degree, so I love to learn and love to research, so I like what you said there. I've done so many different types of work in my life and built small companies, built large companies, done research, that I feel that I bring a combination of skills and knowledge that can help someone from the outside really take the reins and run with it. So, thanks.
Our next question. What do you see as our city's most serious challenge, and what is your solution? Josh.
So this is a question I've been giving a lot of thought about, and it sounds kind of contrite just to say growth, but I think growth in a certain sense where I know as city council we don't control the schools. However, our schools are becoming quickly overcrowded. 38 students in a classroom does not make for effective learning, and the faster we grow, the more the schools are going to get crowded. So I think we need to do a better job of planning where new growth is going to go. If there's already an area that schools and roads are overwhelmed, we really want to be approving, huge apartment complexes. So overall, I think, yeah, growth is a challenge, but you can't stop growth. That's impossible, nor would you want to economically. But you have to be able to grow responsibly and be able to work together. I hear a lot of, we don't have crime now, we don't have a lot of public safety issues now, and I keep following it up with yet. If we don't plan properly and have everything lined out as we should be to support growth, we're just going to end up with more overcrowded classrooms and higher demands on police and higher demands on our firefighters without the personnel to support it eventually. So I think we just need to grow responsibly.
Jessica, what do you see as our city's most serious challenge? What is your solution?
Thank you. That was a great answer, by the way, Josh. So I am very much in agreement with candidate Hoagland regarding our biggest serious concern is livable wage jobs in the community. And it's not just about bringing in livable wage jobs. About 70, I think the statistic came out, about 72% of people leave Meridian every day to go to work in a different area, a different community. And I think that is critical to not only the time that people get to spend with their families, but it's critical to our transportation issues. It's critical to our citywide economy. And, it's easy for us to just talk about Meridian, but really every single area around us is affecting us, and we are affecting them. And I really have a huge vision to be looking at Meridian as a member of our Treasure Valley, as a member of our community, because I think if we are just discussing the serious concerns for Meridian, we're not taking into account how the areas around us are affecting us and vice versa. So I have some great relationships with folks with BVEP and different economic development staff from different cities and community development, and I've had a lot of conversations with them about what would make a business choose Meridian over Boise or Canyon County. And the truth is that it's an uphill challenge for us in Meridian. We don't have enough commercial space in downtown, not even close. Because we've traditionally been a suburb, our residential to commercial ratio is still very off in relationship to a city our size. So we need to make that business environment appealing to companies that want to come in and do business here, not only from a real estate standpoint, which is very in short supply and in high demand, especially in our downtown area again, but also to make the environment amiable for small business. I've been having a lot of conversations with small business people that say that they've had a hard time having a business here in Meridian.
Thank you very much.
Oh, okay.
What changes do you anticipate making to the budget? Jessica.
Oh, that's a tough question. So I am very much in agreement with the city spending money to help improve our transportation. And so I would like to actually go through the budget and see other areas that we might be able to find funds to contribute towards our transportation needs. I do think that is our most critical issue, and I haven't stated that yet because we've had so many other folks that have brought it up and have commented on it. But I also believe that when we are in an up economy, that's the time when the city does need to be, collecting the taxes. I know that's not a very popular thing to say, but when we are in a down economy, we'll be glad that we did it when we're in an up economy. So I think that the city needs to be very careful about not decreasing our taxes while our economy is good, but also very carefully looking at each individual item. We are, as city council candidates, the budget is not ours. It is our citizens, and it is our duty and responsibility to make sure that every item is reviewed and justified. But in that vein, I think that while our economy is good, both locally and nationally, we really need to be using those funds to improve our infrastructure and improve our transportation.
Josh?
I agree with you. This is a tough question, but I think the place to start is I would want to go through the budget line by line. I mean, that doesn't sound like the most thrilling thing in the world, but I'd like to go through it line by line, look at every item, and if there's something that I think might be an item we don't really need to be spending money on, go to the head of that department and see if it's necessary. I think we need to dedicate more money to public safety. As Brad had mentioned earlier, some of the other jurisdictions around here will pay more to police officers, firefighters, other jobs similar to that. We're only going to attract the best talent if we can match the wages that other communities are going to pay. I think in terms of overall wages for a city, we're doing pretty good. Meridian is consistently ranked in one of the best places to live, best places to relocate lists. That's how we ended up here. We found that. But I think I can't give a blanket statement on what changes I would do to the budget until I had an opportunity to go through it line by line, look at the items that I thought may appear questionable, and then going to the people who are responsible for those items and finding out if they're necessary. If they're necessary, great, and they can be justified, great. If it's a program or an item that may not be necessary, why can't we divert those funds to something more pressing for the city?
Our next question, what is responsible growth to you, and how will you provide decisions on how and where to grow? Josh.
So responsible growth is growing without overwhelming ourselves, without overwhelming especially public safety, education, the roads. If we're going to grow responsibly, we need to think everything through, not just how many people can we cram in here, how many permits can we approve over there, how many new houses can be put here, how many farms can be bought for more houses. We need to talk to everyone involved to be able to grow responsibly. So if there was a permit coming across that someone wanted to build a new subdivision, I'd want to talk to the fire chief, the police chief, highway department, West Ada School District. How is all this going to affect everybody? I don't think we can, well, you definitely can't just stop growth. The city's going to grow. It's got a reputation as a great place to live. People are going to continue to come in. We just need to make sure we grow it the right way. Again, I come from a city that I lived in for 12 years that grew the wrong way. And they just grew by let's just approve everything, bring the tax dollars into the city. And soon enough, our crime rates went up. There were more emergencies. We didn't have public safety in the right places based on the new subdivisions. Schools got overcrowded. It just wasn't planned properly. And you can grow as much as you want, but if it's not responsible by taking the opinions of everybody involved that needs to help the city run smoothly, you're going to end up with problems.
Jessica?
Thank you. I think there's a variety of things we can talk about when we discuss responsible growth. Being on on the Planning and Zoning Commission for the last 3 years, I've firsthand been able to see the push and pull that comes with putting development into an area that is a challenge for its residents, but yet at the same time may bring critical services to that neighborhood and help some of our transportation by allowing folks to stay within their neighborhood to get those services rather than driving 3 or 4 or 5, 10 miles to go out into another city to get those services. So it is about balance, but we can talk about smart growth, we can talk about sustainable growth. Smart growth is, in my opinion, growing in a way that is environmentally safe and in a way that is utilizing our resources to the best of our ability. Sustainable growth is being able to maintain the growth that we and the decisions that we have approved. So, an urban renewal district, for example, we can have that district for a period of years. We can have some great projects that come in, but are we actually as a city able to sustain those growth decisions that were made and those infrastructure decisions that were made? So there's a lot of different things that we can discuss when we talk about responsible growth, but I want to touch specifically on land planning and because this is my area of expertise. When we receive traffic reports from ACHD that have information that's 5 years old, it doesn't work for Meridian. 2-year-old traffic information is tough enough because of how fast we're growing, but the Ada County Highway District says that nationwide, 5 years is an acceptable time frame in which to provide traffic counts to in their traffic reports to us. Now, the traffic reports aren't created by ACHD, but they do approve them, and I just have a lot of concerns that that is not valid and acceptable information for us to be making transportation decisions. The other thing is that West Ada School District...
And that is time. Our next question, what is your 10-year vision for Meridian? Jessica, stick with you.
Well, I really liked what candidate Simonson said, that he would include absolutely everything, but I don't know that that's possible. So for me, I would like to see definite improvements to our downtown core. I think our downtown has so much opportunity. I'd love to see some more commercial space down there. I'd love to see some more residential space down there, people walking, biking. I feel like that's our next big opportunity in Meridian to make this a wonderful place to work and live. I would also like to see a completion of a feasibility study done on an auditorium district. I think that we are getting there. We're ready to start having a conversation about an auditorium district that I think will bring very needed event space to our community. I don't know that we're ready to start this tomorrow, but I definitely think we're ready to be having the conversation, be having studies done that show whether it's feasible for us. And then I also would like to see an expansion of the Eagle and Interstate 84 intersection. We are, in my opinion, at, if not over capacity there. I know it's not been that long since we've worked on that project, but I think that that it's a dangerous area at this point. So I'd definitely like to see that happen within the next 10 years. And then the fourth thing is I want to see incredible amount of vibrancy in Meridian. So I would like to see some younger, some vibrancy brought in by some younger people that would like to live here. I love our family element, but I'd also love to see a greater variety of demographics here because I think that's what makes a diverse and just vibrant community is to have all different people groups that are here and investing in just the things that make this place wonderful. So I have a lot longer list, but I'll stop there.
Josh?
So the 10-year vision for Meridian, I think we're going to continue to grow, of course. It's a very desirable place to live, and every time we make another list of desirable places to live, it gets even busier and busier. I think what we need to do is think many years in advance in terms of everything. We shouldn't have to build a road, add a lane, and then by the time the lane's done, it's time to start the next one. Use more statistical data to find out, okay, what do the projections look like? How can we get in front of this? I agree that I think we need to have a better downtown. Boise has a fantastic downtown. Even Nampa revitalized their downtown. It's great now. Our downtown, there's not a draw to really go down there. There's not something that really makes our downtown stand out. I also agree with what you said about the auditorium district. I think we could have that to bring in some different types of events. There's so many different types of events you can go to in Boise or you can go to in Nampa, but there's nothing in between. Why can't we have good events like that as well? I think we need to just continue to grow responsibly. I'd like to see it where 10 years from now, we grow while keeping crime down, while fixing traffic, while easing the population